Okay, so I'm running an experiment. I'm going to try and help you and myself develop perfect pitch. Now, I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I've uncovered something recently that makes me think that it is possible. And I think the way that we go about perfect pitch, we've all heard it. Listen to it, feel it, just sense the pitch. It doesn't really work because we're not really being told what to listen for. And we also can't describe it. If I were to sit here and tell you what the color green looked like, and you've never seen the color green, you might get a vague idea of what to look for if you were to see it. But until you see it, you're just never going to know what green is. You have to experience it. But it's more than that. You also need to be told where to look. I need to point to you on a color palette. That color right there is green. And once you see it, you can start to understand it. Now, one of the things about the brain that I find interesting, especially when it comes to acoustics, is that we pretty much understand what we're hearing within about 500 milliseconds of hearing a pitch. And so I was thinking about that, and I realized, well, maybe that's part of the problem, because when we do perfect pitch training, a lot of times we listen to the whole note. We get into it, we try and sense it, we try and hear some subtle difference. And one, we're probably trying too hard, and two, we're probably listening to the wrong thing. And so I ran a little experiment where I played a bunch of notes, basically in the C major scale, as quickly as I could, just very short. On the piano, it sustains, and so that's not great. So I switched to a sampled piano, and I closed the lid on the piano, and I did some modifications to the piano so I could get that clarity of sound, the core pitch. And what I discovered was that I could clearly hear a difference between C, D, E, F, G, A, B. I could hear all of them. But I don't think that's going to work for everybody, because I already have a decent sense of tone awareness. If you were to play a pitch, I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. But if you played two different pitches, I can tell a difference in quality between the two pitches. I can experience that. But I don't have perfect pitch because I can't tell you what those notes are. So we're just going to do a fun little experiment here. I have a theory, and I'm going to test it out on you. This is what I used to do in the university, and that's how I came up with my flawless ear training course. And this is what I did with my child, and it's how I'm coming up with this baby ear training course. I'm seeing results, I'm tweaking them, and then eventually I'm turning it into something real. But this time, I have a much wider audience. And part of my training is a little bit biased because I was dealing with music majors. But in the college I was teaching at, we would have a wide variety of levels. People would come in with different skill sets. Some would be very advanced, some would be more basic. And we tried to put them in classes that were of comparable abilities, but in reality, that didn't always quite work out. And so sometimes you had students that need a little more help, and sometimes you had students that just knew what they were doing, and they'd get bored by some of the exercise you did while you're trying to bring everybody up to the same level. So I had to kind of work with advanced and introductory students at the same time, even if that's not ideal for teaching ear training and music theory. But my point here is that I was able to learn by teaching my students what works and what doesn't when it comes to ear training. And now you have the flawless course because I have learned the secret in a way of teaching ear training, at least one way that I know works for a lot of people that have tried the course. It might not work for you, but it works for a lot of people. And that's kind of how ear training goes. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. That's why I recommend other programs sometimes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have these instant premieres every week. They have to be instant premieres, not live streams, because I need to be able to go back and make sure the audio is working, make sure the audio is pure, make sure you're getting a good audio experience. And the best way for me to do that is I'm going to start by talking to you with video like this, but then everything's going to be recorded in Logic so that I can get the best audio for you. That's just how we're going to do this. Now, I know how to do it another way where I can record video and then add the audio later, but that takes up a lot of time. And right now we're just concerned with results, and you don't need to see my face. So we're going to go to faceless after I introduce the concepts. And that'll also let you fast forward to the point where I stop talking. But what I want to do here is we're going to start with one note. And you've probably done this before, but we're going to do this in a different way. What I have created here is essentially the note C is going to run for about 5 minutes, and you're going to listen to it at various octave registers. And I don't want you to think too much about it. You're just going to listen to it. Once you've listened to it, an exercise I want you to try and complete this week while you're waiting for me to upload next week's instant premiere, I want you to go around your house, your neighborhood, whatever, and I want you to try and find something that is in your environment that reliably produces the tone C. It could be a note in a bird. You know, you hear a bird tweeting outside and you hear a C come out. It could be your washing machine. It could be an alarm clock. It could be when you drop something, maybe you hear the note C in it. But I want you to investigate different sounds in your house to find a C. That's part of this training. So there's a little bit of homework for you. Otherwise, I want you to come back and just listen to the drill portion of this every day. And you can listen to this intro talk if you want, but I'll make sure to put a link so that you can go straight to the drill portion and you can skip this introductory talk in the future. We're going to make this really easy. I'm not going to try and create a whole bunch of different audio files. I'm going to run experiments that I have done on myself to help you develop first a little bit of tone awareness, and then hopefully we're going to see what we can do about this perfect pitch thing. My theory is that you're not going to develop perfect pitch the way a baby does. You know, when you're a child, you can pick it up in a way that is just so fast, so intuitive. As an adult, I think it's going to be slower, but we're going to see what happens with you. And I'd love for you to share your comments and let me know what you've experienced, because that will actually help me create the next presentation. So this is really collaborative. I'm not doing this on my own. You're doing it with me. And that is why this is free, because I am relying upon all of you to provide your honest input, things that worked, things that didn't. And, you know, I'll take it with my own subset of knowledge. Like if I know that somebody says, well, I can't hear the difference between tones, that means more time is needed for that particular person. Because even in my composition studio, I've heard students that tell me they don't hear the difference between C and D. Somebody even left a comment on YouTube, all I hear is ding. And so basically they're saying all the notes sound the same. That is how it starts. And I can tell you that I have reached a point where I do hear differences, but it depends on whether or not I'm tired, whether or not I ate, how long the day has been, how much I've been practicing that day. So there's a lot of variables, but I definitely hear consistent sounds each time I approach the piano and try and do some training. So you might be wondering, well, if you can hear these differences, why can't you memorize them? I don't know, but they're too subtle to memorize. It's more that when I hear these tones together, I can hear differences between C and D and E. Some tones are more obvious than others, like B flat is really obvious to me. And I think that's partially because I play a B flat instrument. It's rooted in B flat. That's its fundamental. So that could have a role to play here. The other thing I'm going to say is if you have an instrument, I'm going to play 3 different timbres. There's going to be a piano and 2 other timbres for each of these exercises. If you have your own instrument, that's your 4th timbre. Whatever note we're working on, I want you to go and play that note on your instrument. And the reason for that, David Lucas Birch talks about this, and he's absolutely right. It's easiest to hear differences in tones on your own instrument first. I always heard them on the euphonium. That's the instrument I play. It's like a small tuba. To this day, I can still hear the differences between the different notes on the euphonium. And it's very obvious to me, but somebody that never played euphonium might not hear these differences. So the fourth tone, at some point during the day, just play it on your instrument and just listen in the same way we have during these drills. Later, I'll leave time for you to actually play the fourth tone in the example. But for the first week, we're just going to listen to this example, and then outside of sort of class, I want you to go ahead and play that tone on your own. So you have 2 homework assignments. To play the note C on whatever instrument you happen to have available, the one that you play the most, and to find the pitch C somewhere in your house. And you may have to search, and it may take a few days. It's not like you have to do it all in one day. You can slowly search for it, take a little app, keep playing the C, try and find it in your house. Okay? So with that being said, we're going to start the drills now, and let me know. This is an instant premiere, so if you're live with me, let me know in the comments how this is going, and I will be here responding. Okay, so how was it? Look, you're not going to get perfect pitch from this. You probably won't even notice a difference in your hearing from this first drill. But if you come back for the next drill and the one after that, and you complete this daily for the next week, then you'll start to most likely see some changes. But that's what this is about. Just give it some time, see if it starts to open anything up. The problem is you're not going to hear anything until we start comparing that pitch, the C, to other pitches. Until we've done that, this isn't going to work. So right now what we're doing is we're just kind of setting a foundation, and we're trying to open up the ear a little bit and gain a little familiarity with C. But this type of training by itself does very little. Not until we start adding other notes in. So tune in next week. We're going to continue this, and let me know any experiences that you had from this particular drill. I'm very curious because it could help me to formulate how I go forward with this. Remember, this is experimental. It's very collaborative, so I really appreciate your help and any suggestions or comments along the way. This is just something I'm doing a little bit for fun. Everything else I do is so serious, so this is just something that I hope can help you, and I think it's going to help both of us in the long run. So I'll see you next week. We're going to post these every Wednesday.